Ariel Helwani in New York City alongside the reigning defending UFC strawweight champion Rose Namajunas, who of course meets Joanna Jedrzejczyk on April 7th in Brooklyn, New York at UFC 223, her very first strawweight title defense. Looking forward to that. We are 2 months or so out. Tickets are going on sale this week. You're back in New York, back where you won the belt, Rose. But I did speak to you a couple times after you won the belt, and you were kind of on the fence about this immediate rematch. Ultimately, why did you agree to it?
Because she's still at the top of the division, other than myself, of course, and other than her, Jessica Andres, Tisha, they're busy. So and I think if she feels the certain way about her weight cut, or she didn't feel like she was the best version of herself, I want to make sure that I put a stamp on it and that I beat her fair and square.
So you mentioned the weight cut. She's done some media since the fight. She told me that she felt like her brain was frozen. She lost 15 pounds in around 14 hours. When you hear these comments, like Karolina Kowalkiewicz spoke up about them and said, like, this is just excuses, like, don't talk about that. How do you take those comments?
I like to take people's word for whatever they're saying. At the same time, I know for a fact that it's more than just a weight cut that won me that fight. I'm very skilled on the feet. I just had the perfect game plan to beat her. So whether or not that had an effect, it doesn't matter to me. So, I'm sure I'm sure that she's going to be a better version of herself, though, this time around. So I'm looking forward to it.
Do you feel like she's trying to take anything away from you from saying these things publicly?
Maybe not. I think she's given me, proper respect. But at the same time, I think she has to come up with something. There has to be something that went wrong. She's, was so dominant. And then for me to just go in there and take everything from her that quickly, I don't think she's really been able to make sense of it. And that's kind of the easiest thing to point to.
She's parted ways with her nutritionist team, so there's a lot going on in her life. Do you view these as like positives in your favor? Like maybe she's in this state of transition, so this is the perfect time to fight her again?
It's always a perfect time to fight anybody, because anything can happen. There's so many variables that go into it, so I try not to get attached to whatever the other person's situation is, because, my situation could be different as well, and it could just either work out for me or not. So whatever she's doing, obviously she really believes that this is the mistake that was made, and hopefully like I said, hopefully she's a better version of herself. I want to fight the best Joanna. Like going into it, I was expecting a 3rd round finish, so for it to happen in the first, it was great, but I was kind of expecting a little bit more.
Did you have a premonition that she was having trouble making weight, and after hearing that, were you trying to attack early to try to capitalize on her weakened state? Did you hear any, talk before the fight that she was in trouble?
No, I did know that I know that she always has a tough weight cut. I mean, that's something that I've always heard, from many different people. So there was no surprise to me that she was gonna have a tough weight cut, because that's kind of always the case.
It's not Madison Square Garden. It is across the bridge in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. How do you feel about being back in New York and doing it? Like, do you like the symbolism there?
I do, and I like that, we're in like uppity Manhattan the first time, and now we're in, the realness of Brooklyn. So I think it's very fitting for Thug Rose.
You were in Brooklyn yesterday, taking in a basketball game, not the Knicks, the Nets, against the Rockets.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you get a lot of love? Did people recognize you? And you're in the arena where you're about to co-headline. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I got the feel for the arena. Took a lot of pictures with people, and it was a great time. It was definitely better than the Broncos game I went to, where they didn't do too well. It was very entertaining, a close match, and I enjoyed watching those huge basketball players almost run into us at one point.
Because you were courtside, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people like the poster that came out. Did you see the poster?
I did, yeah, with my finger.
Yes.
Yeah.
When did you take that photo? Where's that from?
I think we did like a promo shoot before, like a month before the fight happened, and so they had me doing like different poses and stuff, and it ended up looking really cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Kind of fitting, yeah.
So are you okay with that being the picture, like almost telling her to be quiet?
I mean, I think the poster sells the fight. I think it's great. It's basically like, I'm just here to fight, so there's nothing really to say at this point. It's let the fight do the talking.
When we spoke in January, I asked you about the sort of byproduct of being a champion and if you had felt it yet, and you were kind of on the fence. But now it seems like they're really pushing you and you're doing a lot of media. You're kind of getting the victory tour now.
Yeah.
What's it been like a couple months later for you?
It's been great. It's definitely adjusting, and there's more. Like I'm starting to notice there is more distractions, more more people to talk to, more different strings being pulled, and you just gotta stay focused and know who you are, and stay focused.
You enjoy it?
I do, yeah. It's definitely very surreal, and there's pros and cons to anything. So at this level, I'm really just excited for like discovering, kind of not knowing what to expect, and just being in the moment and learning. I'm really enjoying that.
Best part now, like what's been the highlight?
What's been the highlight?
This victory tour, so to speak.
Oh, just like
Specifically in New York, but now you're a few months removed from winning the belt.
Yeah, going to St. Louis, which by the way, that was an awesome like crowd. Had a great talk with Dana, so that was cool. And then just noticing the fan response in St. Louis, and just how much they enjoyed the show. And then one particular moment was really cool when Pat turned to the crowd and lifted up his finger, and then the whole crowd just roared. And then he turned away and was like, "That was weird." And then he did it again, and then they roared again. It was kind of a surreal moment. Yeah.
What did Dana say to you?
Nothing. Just like we just talked about the rematch, and we just got that deal squared away. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
A friend and teammate of yours, Valentina Shevchenko, just won on Saturday. I'm assuming you watched that fight.
Yeah.
She is a very talented fighter.
Yeah, she is. She's that looked like how she is at practice. It was definitely a product of her training, and I think it was great to see her switch from just fighting Amanda Nunes, where she was very counter striking and kind of like sitting back and waiting for her chance, versus this time she just went out and did her thing, was very aggressive, showed her grappling, and she's got a sick crucifix that she sets up wonderfully. And so it was great to see, because I know what that feels like. And it's awesome to see her be successful. And I'm excited to see her fight for that belt.
Just curious, the referee in that fight, Mario Yamasaki, and also her opponent's corner have been blamed. The corner for not stopping the fight earlier, the referee for not stopping the fight earlier. As a fighter, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a touchy subject. I think that I think clearly you saw that she wasn't going to improve her position, so you could definitely make the argument for that was a little too long. Like if I just from watching it, I think I would have probably stopped it. But at the same time, just from certain positions, there wasn't like a lot of hard strikes. Only when she was like in mount was it really where it was like, okay, that's tough to watch. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Like when you're in there, it's totally different, and when you're watching TV, like just from every different angle, there's always different perspectives. So I would say I would have probably stopped the fight sooner, but I'm also one for I just don't like seeing unnecessary damage like that. But it was nice to also see the choke, and I think she was fine afterwards. So I think it all worked out.
What about the corner throwing in the towel? Are you in favor of that?
I told my corner, I was like, if I'm looking like that in the fight, and just throw the towel in for me. But that's just my personal choice, because like I said, those strikes on the canvas, even like I said, certain positions there wasn't that bad. But when you're in full mount and somebody's raining down punches on you, your head's hitting the canvas too, so it's like double impact, and so that's a little scary. And nowadays you see in MMA, ground and pound is so much more vicious and so much more influential in the fight. So I think it's really important. I think people don't really understand how vicious ground and pound can be. But also, not everybody knows how to throw proper strikes on the ground too. So I don't know.
Just live to fight another day. You don't have to just go out there and take all that damage.
It's hard to say. Every situation is different, and when you're in the fight, that might really piss you off. It just depends where you're at. And for me, I want to be totally dominant, and not be in that position. But at the same time, like, I might be in a spot where let me fight this one out,
Two last quick things. There was once a time you were being compared to Ronda Rousey. She is now doing something else. She's in WWE. Did you see her debut? And if so, what do you think of it? And also, do you ever dream of doing something like that?
I definitely wouldn't be I don't know. You never know, right? Like, I used to watch professional wrestling as a kid. I kind of, went away from that. But it's really cool to see her be truly happy and just taking the whole crowd. And I consider her my friend, and I think that it's really cool to see her happy and kind of come out and show herself again. And so I'm really excited for her.
You think we ever see her back in MMA?
I never say never. I think I don't know. We'll see. I think her and Travis have a great thing going, and I think she probably just wants to enjoy her life, but you never know.
Have you talked to her since you became champion? Did she give you any advice on how to deal with all this?
One thing I thought was pretty interesting was, there's different types of champions, and so you just kind of have to figure out what you want to be and just stick to it. And for me, it was more just I learned all the sacrifices that she's made for women's MMA. Has really just made me happy that she was there and really appreciate what she's done for the sport.
Finally, you said you expected to beat Joanna in the third round the first time. What are you expecting in the second fight?
I'm still just I haven't really gotten to that point yet, so I'm still. Like I said, you can't paint the Mona Lisa twice. So I'm kind of just like getting my materials together, starting kind of the rough draft. And I think that I'm expecting her to try and last longer and just draw out the fight longer. So for me, I'm working always, punch them in the face, take their back, and choke them out. And if it happens, a different way than that, that's just kind of, you kind of just I don't know, go with it. But that's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm working on.
Can't wait to see it. Best of luck to you. Thank you for the time. Welcome back to New York. And it's great to see you getting all this publicity and this push from the UFC. It's well deserved. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.